Spurs up, Carolina fans. This is Phil Harris here at the Ruckin Roosters Show, and I am joined with a very, very special guest this time around. His name is Thomas Blair. He is an assistant coach with the Carolina Rugby program. Tommy, how the heck are you?
I'm fantastic, Phil. I appreciate you having me on the show. I've watched it, a few times since I came onto the team, and you got some good content, and I'm just, humbled that you asked me to be a part of it. So thank you.
You're very, very welcome. I see that you're in uniform right now. I think you got a little statement that you have to tell real quick.
Yeah, just due to legality reasons, I'm not speaking on behalf of the Army. I'm speaking on behalf of myself, Tommy Blair. I'm just still at work, but I didn't want to turn down this opportunity, sir.
I appreciate you being on here. Thank you. You've been very, very generous with your time here with this time slot. Excuse me. So I wanted to quickly ask you, where are you from? I'm detecting a little bit of an accent there.
I do. I got like a mutt accent right now, but originally born and raised in Massachusetts, just south of Boston, town called Rockland, Mass. I've bounced around via the Army, so now I got a little bit of North Carolina, a little bit of Alaska, so it's just sprinkle a little bit of something in there.
Yeah, I'm in New Hampshire, and I've been here for the past 13 years. So people, when they meet me, they're like, "Okay, you have an accent, and it's like Southern, but it's a little bit vague because it's faded over time." So like when I come back to the South, the people are like, what is this accent? Like, because people can't really necessarily place it. But somebody asked me one time, am I Danish? Which I thought was very, very strange. I was like, what? Huh? Because I'm a tall guy, but maybe that's what they thought. But anyway, I wanted to ask you, what is your origin story with rugby? Did it come from the military? What's that story?
No. So again, Boston native. I mean, blue collar community up there, as you know. You got the Bruins, and there's a lot of rugby football clubs up there, and that's been around for many years. And so I knew what it was growing up. I just didn't know how to play the sport. And then, I went to college for a semester at Boston College, and I got invited out to practice, and absolutely loved it. And that was the start of my rugby path. And then from there, I joined the military. Did a bunch of deployments back and forth. So. Tried to be as committed as I can to like the local rugby clubs, but it was tough. Was fortunate, got picked up for All Army rugby team for multiple years when they still did the 15s. Now they only do the 7s.
Okay.
But I got to play with the Atlanta Renegades for a little bit when I was down at Benning.
Right. Yeah.
Austin Huns out of Texas.
Okay.
El Paso Scorpions, and then I got orders to Alaska, and I never thought that the Polynesian presence in Alaska was that significant.
Wow.
And there's about 8 teams up there, and they're claimed D3, but you can put them in a D1 school down here, and them bubbas will put the bruise into you. So,
no kidding. That's
so
awesome.
That's the playing time, and I just getting old now, so transition into coaching.
I've got to ask, what position did you play when you were playing frequently?
Mainly 15.
Okay. Yep.
Kick from both legs. Dabbled at 10 every now and then, whether someone gets hurt or whatnot, but mainly 15, sir.
Love that. So one of my favorite USA Eagles right now is a player for the Free Jacks by the name of Mitch Wilson, and he got his he's so good, man. He's so good. So that's fantastic. And it's so cool that you've gotten different perspective and different experience, different rugby cultures all throughout this country through the military. That's really awesome.
It's different. Each geographical position. If you go to the Southwest, you're playing up at 4,000 feet in New Mexico, or you go to Alaska, it's just all Polynesians. You're the only white guy on the team. You're like, oh boy, this is going to be rough. But it's a great sport, and with the brotherhood and whatnot.
Absolutely, the culture is second to none for sure.
Yeah.
Tell us about. Obviously you're wearing the uniform. What were you doing in Colombia up until recently as your day job?
So I was a command sergeant major for one of the battalions here for basic trainees. So they come here for basic training for 10 weeks, We take mothers and fathers, sons and daughters, and turn them into soldiers here. 10-week process. I got orders to Fort Polk, Louisiana last year and was going to transition down there, but I'm at the age now in the year of over 20 years that I got the decision to retire. So I turned that down, and I'm staying here in the great state of South Carolina.
Love that. Yeah, South Carolina is one of those states. If you can deal with the humidity and the heat, it's a really, really nice place to be for sure.
Agreed.
And just to highlight it, like you were like the main guy, like the drill sergeant's like supervisor or something. Is that how that works?
Yeah, I'm essentially the boss man of all the the tough guys and girls of the drills, the mean people who yell and bark orders at the kids of America and whatnot. But
unreal.
The team that I was a part of, they were incredible. All the drill sergeants, they come from all different backgrounds and demographics, and just to be a part of their Army story and to serve with them, not just serve against it. Like it's just a humbling experience, and I'll never forget it.
Incredible job for sure. I wanted to ask you about Carolina's day at Fort Jackson there. So this happened last season.
I think it was a good day.
In the preseason there. How did that come about, and what actually took place with that?
So I met Coach Roberts a couple months prior to that, and Jeff Smoka, who you know as well.
Of course.
And Smoke had I think it was a lunch with one of my bosses, Colonel Kent Solheim, and so they were trying to do these, partnership with social outreach within the community and the organization and whatnot. And I don't know how they got their meeting, but they're due to rugby, and then my boss knew I played rugby, so he tied me in with Coach Smoke and Coach Roberts, and I just asked him, what's the end state? What are we trying to define at the end of the day after whatever we do? And they gave me a good range fan left and right, and Coach Roberts, he wanted some team building, he wanted some camaraderie, and he wanted some competition. Sure. And the three things that we were able to do, there's this thing called Victory Tower. It's a 40-foot tower. They'll climb up, and it's supposed to work on personal courage. And so they would rappel down, 40 feet, and then there's like a kind of an obstacle course that goes through there, and the height, So again, as an individual, thing for themselves, they were working on personal courage. From that, we went to it's called the team development course. There's a random setups and with random equipment. How can you get from point A to point B while working with a team with this equipment that you have?
Yeah.
So those small teams, we broke them down into groups of 4 to 5, and essentially just as an observer looking in, you can identify, okay, that's the leader of that group. How well do they lead, and how well are you a servant leader for that? So we were able to identify some fantastic leadership qualities from that. And at the end, we did our little obstacle course, had them all run through it and whatnot. And, they were pretty smoked, but I brought out 2 squads, which is about 10 per. So about 20 of the trainees of my super studs in my battalion. So we had 2 teams and then 2 rugby teams, and they all had to, compete versus the obstacle course. And so it was building that final. So it started off individually, then it was team building, then collaborating on a competition to go against, an outsider, if you will, an adversary. And the rugby team, they did. They beat the trainees' butts. But I mean, they're D1 athletes. They should be doing that.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I mean, this all sounds like something very, very incredible. I think the tower would have had me a little shaky because I'm slightly afraid of heights, So
I'll even tell you, Coach Smoke went down at the end, and hey, if all those 18, 22-year-olds, they were just like, Smoke. So I think it was a good thing for Coach too.
Oh, absolutely. He's a crowd favorite. We call him a Smoke Daddy among the board members for Carolina Rugby Foundation. So what an amazing guy. But it sounds like a lot of bonding and character building and leadership building that took place there. That would be fantastic if that could happen as well this season. I think that's a really, really cool thing that Fort Jackson is just right down the road from the University of South Carolina. So it would be kind of cool that if they could do that every single year as like a preseason thing.
So it is on the schedule, sir.
Nice.
I saw it, and I reached out to the unit that will actually be doing it, and I was like, hey, this is kind of what we did last year. Yep. We can adjust, so we'll see what comes of it.
Yeah, mix it up a little bit, to keep them on their toes for sure. That'll be great. How did you get involved in coaching? You've talked about, playing at fullback and fly half a little bit over multiple clubs, but how did this coaching thing come about?
So specifically for South Carolina or coaching in general?
Just in general, and then we'll go to South Carolina.
Okay. So in general, I'm getting old, Phil. Lost a step.
I know the feeling.
you got 23, 24, 25-year-old, 6'5", 300-pound dudes, 9% body fat, running 22 miles per hour.
Yep.
I can't keep up with that.
Same.
But I still want to have a foot in the door with rugby. Yep. And whether being a player or a spectator or a coach, I just want to pay it forward from the lessons that I've learned from people that I looked up to in the rugby community itself. And if I can do that and make them a better rugby player and a better person overall, that's my goal, and that's what makes me happy. I like seeing the Bubbas thrive, and when they score that try and they all run around and give each other hugs and high fives, and when you're at the pub after having a pint and just listening to the guys talk and whatnot. Oh, did you see this? Did you see what? It's just like military. As an Army Ranger, the brotherhood that we have when we're overseas. Mm-hmm. It's a controlled, beautiful chaos on the rugby pitch, and it's very similar to war, and that's how my therapy, if you will, is just. I just want to pay it forward, sir.
Right, that's beautiful, and the connection with Carolina Rugby, starting to coach with them. How did that come about?
So Coach Roberts last year, he posted a thing on Facebook, just asking for volunteers to help out, because I think the freshman class last year, just the freshmen alone, was about 30, 35. So, I mean, the instructor to student ratio, he needs his help. Yes. And I said, hey, I don't know with my work schedule and whatnot. I'd love to help out when I can. And so I kind of fell off at the end of the season because I got my orders to go to Fort Polk. Mm-hmm. So I had to worry about the transition of the family and all that. But I absolutely was very, very fortunate and humbled that a man just as Coach Roberts took me on part of his team.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's super exciting. I think you're a great asset to this program, and we're going to talk a little bit more about, your coaching focuses and stuff like that at Carolina. But I'm very, very grateful that you're able to devote some time to help the program along. I think that's really, really cool. Let's move over to, with the numbers that Carolina is bringing in each year, you were kind of alluding to it a moment ago. You really need to have more coaches involved. It can't just be, Coach Roberts, even though he's fantastic at what he does. You got to have assistants, out there, because there's a ton of guys that are interested in playing for Carolina Rugby that show up every single year now. What are some of the things that you've learned as a rugby coach? Any funny stories that you can mention along with that?
So one of the stories actually involves you. I don't know if you heard
what?
About that. Yes. So as your name, Phil Harris, and you're the show, the Ruckin Rooster that you put on, sir.
Yeah.
You had a bunch of the players last year who went on your show, and so I show up to practice, and I'd be like, what'd you guys do this week, et cetera, and they were like, hey, we're on the Ruckin Rooster Show with Phil Harris. I associate Phil Harris as the deadliest catch.
Oh yeah,
one of the boat guys. So I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, why are these guys? And so I hey, did you guys ever? How'd you know him? Did he come down here? And they're like, oh, he would bring us on his boat all the time. And so a couple of them, razzed me a little bit.
Right.
I gave it right back. So just, building the esprit de corps and just talking to the bubbers. Hey, how's mom? How's dad? How's your girlfriend? Et cetera, et cetera. But personally, as a coach, from a coach's perspective, I have learned. So I'm from Boston, blue collar, loud energy. Very, very Irish, and so I got a mouth. But I've learned to, when something good or bad happens on the field, you got to keep my emotions in check.
Yes.
Because it's a ripple effect. Mm-hmm. If I'm arguing or complaining about ref play and all that. Now it's just going to trickle in everybody else.
Right.
So I've really had to concentrate my attention efforts to emotion out, be calm, cool, and collected, so that the captains Grant and Dan can do the same as well, so that can trickle amongst the players. So as a learning point for me, that is one point. The second point I would talk about is just being a servant leader. Just because I'm the coach doesn't mean I'm in charge. I can learn as much as them, then they can learn from me. And so if I'm there to make them as better, people, or better athletes, or students, or better sons, or spouses, like that, at the end of the day, puts a smile on my face, because I mean, rugby is a tough sport. You're going to have ups and downs, and you're going to have ebbs and flows, but how you get there, it's part of the path, and you got to be happy about it.
100%. That's one of those things that, like, I've talked about on this show multiple times. It's not something that I came up with. When we're doing this sort of stuff, we're sitting on the shoulders of giants. And one of the things that really stuck out to me was, like, with collegiate sports, programs themselves, there's coaches involved, and there might be mastermind coaches or guys that can rebuild programs that are very, very important. But the best programs are player run. So that whole top-down dictator mentality with coaching I mean, maybe it can get the job done in certain circumstances, but you really want to, like, as you're saying, servant leadership is very, very important. Like, having that focus, bottom up, 100%, 100%. And I think that's important. Yeah.
And I think by doing that with the Bubbas and whatnot, just by listening to them, whether you agree or disagree, they might have the most silliest input ever, but as long as you acknowledge it and they feel wanted, and it builds the team, it builds the character. And I think that's what's a special point about Gamecock rugby. And one of the first things when me and Coach Roberts had lunch together, when we just wanted to talk with me and whatnot before the onboarding process, he's like, what are you trying to establish here? What's your philosophy? And I said, the culture. It starts with the culture, because the culture leaves the legacy.
Yes.
And so I still believe that to this day.
I mean, successful programs lead with culture. I mean, it's a tried and true thing. You have to have the correct culture, and then all of a sudden you start winning games, and people are like, what's happening here? It has everything to do with the camaraderie, the brotherhood. The guys have to love each other. And that just doesn't happen immediately. It's something that is built up through the program, from the head coach, the assistant coaches. It all has to be fostered for a period of time, and then it'll click. So,
that's just like with the Fort Jackson Day last year, and we're going to do it again this year. It's through shared experiences and shared hardships. Do you form that? Hey, he's like me. When I was sucking and out of breath at 60 minutes, he was right there picking me up. I got to fight for him. I got to fight for that. And I was talking to both the captains the other day, and I said, what's your onboarding process like? Because I came like that first week, so of last year, so I didn't know how that onboarding works with the seniors versus the freshmen. Is there orientation? I was unknown. So I was actually talking to Dan and Grant last week, and I asked them, the Congaree River right by the zoo. What about you guys just doing a team building? Get a couple floats, hop on down, tie on up, jump off some rocks, and get to know the freshmen. Bring them in, feel part of a team. Not expensive. You can buy a tube for $10. Yeah. But those simple things, it matters, and it's a lasting impression on that type of organization, being the USC Gamecocks.
Absolutely. I think we're definitely on the same page with regard to this, and it's very, very encouraging to hear. Just really quickly here, I'm guessing backs focus for coaching. I
think Coach kind of relies me from 9 to 15, unless he has to steal my 9 for some drills every now and then. But for the most part, got the back line. We establish plays, get the buy-in from the players. Hey, what do you think works well? What do you think doesn't work well? I try to keep the play calling simple. We're going to change up the names again for every year, so people can't. But we come up with silly stuff like last year's KFC. I mean, cross field kick. Keep it simple.
That's great.
Or ice whistle. inside winger. Come on, like I'm not trying to do 3 dragon loop, 15 skip set X. Like,
it doesn't have to be rocket science, you know.
They're already losing their brains in academia world. I'm not trying to lose their brains on the pitch. I just need, their athleticism and their mental toughness.
We've talked about him a couple times here, Tommy. What's your impressions of Coach John Roberts?
Where do you start with a guy like that, a resume like that?
Yeah.
I mean, 165 and 60-1 at Furman. National championships under his belt, runners up multiple times. I mean, just an extraordinary coach, person, father, husband. Like, he's a family man. He believes in the big guy upstairs, and he loves rugby. And if you got someone with those core values, wherever you go, whatever you do, you're going to have an impact. And he's done just that. I mean, look at the stadium's named after him in Furman. Yeah. And to be associated at that with a person with that rugby repertoire, I am humbled to be a part of that. And it's just been an awesome privilege to learn and work with him.
100%. I mean, you're hitting every nail. You know, I talk about him all the time on this show, so I would just be repeating myself. But everything you're saying is absolutely true. You know, he's a winner, but not only that, like, he truly is a living legend. Like, he will end up one day in the USA Rugby Hall of Fame. It's pretty wild that we are working with him on a daily basis. Like, he is an amazing person, really, and truly.
To see how he is with, I was about to say kids, the young men, to see how he is with them. And you could be a freshman who is out of shape, needs to work on some stuff, to the captain, and he talks to them the same. And people notice that. They pay attention to that. And, like I said, it's a really, really cool thing to learn from him and to do it with him.
Couldn't agree more on that. Now, there will be players arriving in a few short weeks. What are the early expectations for this team in the fall season?
They're really good. They're really good. Got to fill in a couple spots in the back line. We got a couple people who graduated, so they're gone off. Kevin Ice in his veins, Lacey, who our old fullback, who could put him through the uprights when we needed some points versus Clem Sucks. But I mean, we got some phenomenal players coming back. I mean, you got Chelly, JV, Dan, Grant, Connor, Rulin, Baby Giraffe, Walker, Connor. You just got some incredible studs coming back, and I think we'll be all right. I mean, we're on the up and up. Yeah. The sphere of influence is going up with our sphere of play. And to run those parallel and to continue with the social outreach and getting Gamecock's name out there. I mean, heck, we're even like recruiting half of the East Coast New England side. They're all coming down here, and come on down, Bubbas. Yeah. So we're very fortunate in the season coming up, based off of our last 7 seasons and our last 15 seasons. Like I said, I'm from Boston, so I am diehard Boston sports fan. And when I came here, okay, all right, I'll go Cox. All right, let's do this. And to watch, the seniors of last year win that game, I think it was the first time in 9 years to Clemson. Yep. To just watch their reactions and them trying to throw up Gavin's big old butt up in there and watching Walker hug the trophy. It was a very, very proud moment that I will never forget.
Yeah, for sure. What a very special time for Carolina, and a real indicator of where this program is going. Beating your rival for the first time in 9 years, a team that is very, very good. I mean, we make fun of them on this show, but they are a legitimate rugby program, no doubt about it. So to get one over on them, and it's been a long time since that's happened, it just kind of highlights where this program is going. So
even versus Tennessee, we were in it the entire game. I mean, ball bounces 1 or 2 different ways. It's a whole nother story.
100%.
So I'm really, really excited what we got going on next year. And we got this. So a couple of the coaches, they came out. They got some workout programs going on per week with the guys. And so I kind of jumped on. I mean, I'm an in shape guy. I mean, I know I'm old, but I'm still in shape. And I've been sending them out challenges per week and kind of, chirping them and whatnot, trying to get that, rivalry, that competitiveness.
Yeah.
It's for twofold, really. One, to get them to work out, because they might give you the lip service, I'm working out, but let me see your times. So, for example, last week, it goes from Monday to Sunday. What's your 5K row time? And I started it with putting mine up there. I don't care what your time is. I want to see if you're putting in the work, because that will tell me when we show up in 2 weeks who's been doing the work. And then at the end, I'll take all the scores and blast them up and give kudos to whoever won. So shout out to Grant Howard, who won the 5K row last week. Now we got the Murph workout this week, and so the Bubbas are putting in work though.
That's great. It's very encouraging to hear. And that's one of those things, like we're talking about, servant leadership. Like, you're doing the work too. You're putting up your time and then challenging them. I mean, you're like, oh, I'm an old man. Can't you beat me? Like, this should be easy, right? Like, that's the kind of
39 years old beating D1 athletes. I'm going to have to call up Smoke to get me a scholarship.
No doubt. No doubt. You got some eligibility left, I'm sure. So yeah. Heck yeah. So final thing here, Tommy, you've been fantastic. I really appreciate your time. We've got one final question, then we're going to do a little game that I did not tell you about prior to, but you've seen the show, you know what's going on. So the question here is, if there's a high school rugby player or maybe even a college rugby player on another team watching this right now, what would you say to them about enrolling or just transferring to Carolina and playing rugby as a Gamecock?
That's a really good question. I would leave it with 2 words: proven and accomplished.
Okay.
And that comes from our coach.
Yes.
He's the guy that establishes the foundation, raises up the pillars, builds the program, the culture. So if people want to learn the sport and to be a part of someone who's been there, done that multiple times at the national level, come on down. But I mean, we still need to be, we need people high in character. We don't want, look at me, look how fast I am, I'm so in shape, I'm this, because it's a team sport. One person does not win that game. So we want people with high esprit de corps, some discipline, high character values, and who just like to have a good time and put in some effort. I mean, who doesn't like to get in shape and get 6 packs? I mean, I can't do that anymore, but them dudes, and then they can go floating down the river, the Congaree, and showing off with what they've earned for themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's a great way to put it. And I think if someone's watching this and this intrigues you, you want to be a Gamecock, make sure you go to our website and sign up for the recruiting newsletters. But the final thing.
Even going into this real quick, even going into the season, just because you played last year at XYZ position, all positions are open.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about this, because that's what I love about the sport, because it always challenges you to be better every day.
Yep.
And so if you think you might have the 10, the 12, the 7, the hooker position locked in, you got to come with it every day, because, Coach Roberts, he wants you fired up. And if you come to practice not fired up, ooh, boy.
I mean, iron sharpens iron, and competition is very, very important, right? Yeah. So we definitely have that in droves. There's a lot of players trying to play for Carolina and be that first string, that A squad player. So one word association, Tommy. I'm going to say one word. I want you to throw back the first word that comes to your mind. And it might be a little difficult here.
We got a radio edit.
Unfortunately not. So there's one on here that I think that you might need to use it for sure. But let's try our best here. The first one is very easy. It's Carolina.
Home. It's home now.
Yep. Welcome home. And the next one is Army.
Thank you. I say that because I was a kid growing up in a lower socioeconomic status. The group that I was with, my clique in high school, was not the best one. And if I didn't get out of there somehow, I would have probably ended up a statistic. And you can imagine how that goes. So thank you for saving my life.
The next one is your rival's Navy.
Pass.
You could have just left it with ugh. You know, that's perfectly fine. The next one is
they put in good work. They put in good work. I love my brothers and sisters over there, but
there you go. That's a very political answer. There we go. The next one is another rival, Clemson.
I don't know how I would describe that in one word. I have a lot of words for that. I remember we were talking about radio edits, but looking forward to the next fight with them on the pitch.
All right. Yeah. The last one is rugby.
Love. I mean, I love everything about it. Yeah. I love the people. I mean, you can walk down. I heard this, like, you can walk down the street, you know, like what Coach was saying, you see the rugby shirt. Hey, who'd you play for? Hey, but you don't see that, you know, with the other sports. And it's nothing but brotherly love. And you can go hammer to hammer for 80 straight minutes, and you get a black eye, chipped tooth. And at the end, you're drinking a pint with the fella and introducing him to your wife and kids.
Yep.
I mean, I love it. Beautiful chaos.
Yeah, the culture is unmatched for sure. A lot of people don't understand it. They don't quite get it, but the people that are involved in it intimately or whatever, you know, they understand and they know. So it's very cool.
I agree.
And that comes to the end here. We're 31 minutes in here, so I appreciate your time very much. We're going to say 2 words to exit the video in 3, 2, 1. Spurs up, baby.
Up.
Woo! Thank you, Tommy. Appreciate it.
Take care, sir.